Hey, live with Brad. Wanted to say hello. Uh, I'm live again, if you can believe it. I didn't think that I would go live, but we've had conversations and people have been asking me to go live. People have been asking me to do things. So I'm going to try this format instead of YouTube. Uh, just wanted to go live. I will give pure credit to where this topic is coming from. Um, I've been listening to Cybercrime Magazine podcast going back to and from work. Great. If you get a chance, download that and listen to it. I absolutely love it. I listen to it every single day. But they referenced this article on Autoblog, and with us today is white hat hacker Sam Curry. And the reason why I brought Sam on to talk with us today is Sam did something that I knew I thought you could do, and I've been telling people that you could do, but people are like, there's no reason to do this. There's no reason to actually do it. And I've been telling people, my friends, and like a lot of people in the industry, hey, this is possible. And when I heard this, I just went, oh my gosh. And what Sam has done is absolutely incredible. Congratulations, Sam. Um, he he actually hacked into Sirius XM's software, and I'm going to let him do a lot more eloquently than I do. I'm going to tell it, but he was able to hack into the software and then remotely unlock, start, locate, flash the lights, honk the horn, and open the trunk on vehicles. And in specific brands, Acura, BMW, Hyundai, Infiniti, Jaguar, Land Rover, Nissan, Subaru, uh, holy crud. And he did this first by email address and then by serial number. And holy cow. So my brain just started going, if you could do that, what could you do? So, and then I wanted to go live and just, I reached out to Sam on LinkedIn, connected with him, and basically begged him to come on live to to tell the story. I appreciate him coming on. Sam, thank you very, very much for coming on. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, Brad.
Yeah. What? So tell my peoples, tell us about you, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, it's so hard to come up with like a title for like kind of what I'm interested in, but I've been doing like security research and hacking and all this just stuff, kind of this field for probably like 7 or 8 years now. But recently we started doing these like kind of projects where we kind of pick a specific industry and just like really try to explore it and find like security vulnerabilities. But I remember to give a bit of background on like why we kind of started this, we I went to a college campus a few years ago, and like we saw that you could like you know use the scooters, and you can go through like the scooter app, and we found like these vulnerabilities where you could like access like the scooters like lights and horns using through the scooter app, and we're like, wow, that's really cool. Like you
Very
could
cool.
basically press a button, yeah, wake up the college campus. But yeah, from that point, we're like, if scooters have these like SIM cards and can be controlled like, over the internet like this, and cars have the same thing, like why don't we look at cars and just see what we could find? But that was kind of the start of everything.
So you did wake up the campus, is what you're telling me.
I cannot, yeah.
You
I guess I
can't
can disclose
deny
it now.
your
Some people woke up. There was a few scooters honking at the middle of the night, but it was
so
a
we'll say you can't positive or negatively deny
uh,
or validate that question. I understand completely. I understand completely. But it's very, very cool. And tell us a little bit. What is a white hat hacker? What is that? For those of you those of you listening that don't know, could you tell us what that is?
yeah, sure. So I think a long time ago, there used to be this battle with like hackers where like companies were like, we're gonna do everything we can to like, not have a positive relationship with hackers. We're gonna try to block them out, and we're gonna like avoid hackers at all costs, right? So a long time ago in like the beginning of the internet, there's like this war with hackers where companies just really don't like them because they're like causing all this ruckus. But at one point, somebody said like, hey, like these hackers don't really like mean harm. They just kind of want to like report stuff to us and they want to like hack on our stuff. Why don't we just invite them in and like let them hack on our stuff? So like when white hat hacking kind of started, it was just like these people who may have been, like malicious if they weren't given the opportunity, where they're being like invited to like mess with this stuff. So like white hat hackers basically like work with companies, like work with like specific products and all this stuff, and they're given permission to kind of just like have a field day and try to find as much stuff as they can. And then once they find it, it's like reported and like fixed.
So let's do say this has been fixed. So this has been fixed. I don't have to worry about like my next door neighbor's BMW waking me up in the middle of the night, or at least not by you. Oh wait, no, we don't know whether or not that was done or not done by you. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, like the vulnerabilities have been patched, but I definitely think there's probably like more vulnerabilities that may exist here, and I think like this is kind of a cool chance to like invite everybody else to like start looking at these. I couldn't find like there's definitely been people who've explored this in the past. There's like a lot of really cool research that's been put into this, but like I don't know of anybody who's like currently trying to find stuff like this, and I think it's an area where people should definitely spend more time in.
Yeah. So what made y'all do it? Like what what made you like decide? Okay, let's go after cars.
Yeah, so like we have a good friend. His handle is Spectres, but he's like really big in like physical car hacking, right? So the guys who like go into their car and like flash it so they can like overwrite the do speed go faster than the speed limit or whatever on their limiter. And he's been working in the auto industry for a long time and doing like auto security and making sure that the physical cars themselves are as secure as possible. But he reached out to us because he saw like he's like, hey guys, like the mobile apps are really weird, right? Like the fact you can have like your Tesla app and like click a button and start the car, like how does that work? And since we had like a bit of like background in like that area of security, we're like, well, let's just like kick off a project where we get like a couple guys and we try to do this for a few months and see what we can find. Um, and also to give a little bit more like context, like I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, right? And cars are like a big deal to everybody, right? Like you're in high school, you get your car, like the idea of like being able to like hack someone's car is like a really fun thing to me because it's like something like people use like every day and they care about. So there's like a lot of it's very wide impact.
Yeah. So first, go corn huskers. Go corn huskers. So are there any other manufacturers that you guys can do this to, or is it any manufacturer that was connected to Sirius was open to this vulnerability?
It was only affecting like through Sirius XM. It was only affecting like those specifically mentioned car brands.
Mhm.
We have more research coming up where it's like other car brands and like other vulnerabilities affecting like related things to cars. But the thing is, like the Sirius XM research, we reported it like first, right? That was the first thing we looked at. And when we ask permission to disclose vulnerabilities, we give them like a 90-day window. We're like, hey, we found this on this date, and like 90 days in the future, we're going to disclose it. Like, we're giving you like this window to fix it, and then we're going to talk about it. Um, so I think when we tweeted about the Sirius XM stuff, that was like right when the window hit. So we have like more stuff in the works that we're going to do in like a blog post.
Can you can you tell me a little bit about how you did it? I mean, I'm so super curious, like how you did this.
Yeah, sure. So the thought process for us is okay, like as a customer of a car, I go to a dealership, I buy the vehicle, and then the dealer will set me up. They'll ask for my email address. And once they have my email address, I can, go make an account on the app and I press a button and it communicates with like a server that can access my vehicle, right? So the thought process there was like, okay, let's break this up into every component that we can think of that involves this process. So you've got like user authentication, you've got like the actual telematics request that like enables the features in the car, and then you have just kind of everything surrounding that. Like for instance, if the telematics functionality was deployed on like Amazon Web Services, you could like potentially like have a attack vector there. So our thought process was let's try to like let's take like for instance the My Honda app, and we're going to break this app apart, and we're going to find all the URLs and all the IP addresses and like all of what this talks to, and then we're gonna try to observe it, like actually talking to it, and then at that point we can kind of break apart and see like, if we change this number here, what happens, or if we try to insert like a control character here, what happens.
Yeah. What's a telematic request?
Sure. So telematics refers to, and I may butcher this, but it's basically the everything involving like the remote functionality of a vehicle where it's like sending diagnostic data or receiving commands. So it's just kind of like a telematics device would be like something in your car that kind of hooks up to everything that has like a SIM card. So it's almost like a cell phone that's connected to your car, right? So telematics functionality is just like everything involving that whole process of like sending commands and receiving data back to your phone or whatever, medium it talks to.
Yeah. So, and you said email addresses. This is extremely interesting and scary because you know I sales rep, B2B. I'm in cybersecurity for a managed service provider, and one of the things that I do is I do dark web searches on companies using their URL. So on some of the dark web searches, I see emails and I see passwords. To me, that's a huge like problem because now they can, just by finding somebody's email and address, they got their car. I mean, is that am my logic sound?
Yeah, your logic's definitely sound. Like it's kind of our kind of thought process for that was like, we really like the idea of like targeting someone via their email address because it's like, you probably have it, you can probably find it, it's probably public. Um, like basically like, it would take somebody like the average person, you could find their email in like 15 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're mad at your coworker or something, you want to wake them up, you find their email, plug it in the app, and click their horn a couple times. But
I don't
yeah.
know nothing about that.
I think the number is definitely not non-zero for the people who would click that button. So I think
Yeah,
it's kind of a
well,
fun
I'm
a fun
looking at my
story.
neighbor's car now, but she is a nurse, so I would not do that, Stacy. So this is really scary because I mean your email and work, it seems to like with all the breaches that are involved, and then talk about all the Equifax and like everybody asking for your email addresses and them not protecting themselves. Now they're putting you at risk. Man, that's scary. That is very scary.
Yeah,
Hmm.
100%.
So what are let's go with the we talked a little about a positive. What are ways that you can protect yourself from guys like you, from white hackers, what or even black? I mean, what are ways that you can protect yourself?
Yeah, I think like one of the if you kind of wanted to like shield yourself a little bit, one thing I would kind of suggest, and this may sound a little extreme, is just like being kind of private about your VIN number and being kind of private about like which email you decide to use on these apps. I think there will be in the future ways to like kind of maybe do like a similar sort of attack, right? But I think like if you don't want to be targeted in these things, then like, if you use your Gmail, if your Facebook Gmail and everything, maybe like, spin up a different email for this for the car telematics stuff you're going to be doing. And then also like you know, people's VIN number are kind of accessible over their dashboard. Like if you really wanted to hide it and you feel like you're someone who may be like targeted in something like this, just like covering up your VIN number so that you can't see it externally.
Mm-hmm.
And this again may seem kind of extreme, but if you're one of the people who is really like you feel like this may like be you may be targeted in this way, you could definitely just like take those precautions.
Yeah, but it just it's even in being in cybersecurity, it scares me to death to know that I'm open like this. It scares the crap out of me. Um, did you hear? Now this is kind of off topic, but did you hear about John Deere getting hacked?
Yep.
So for those of you that don't know, John Deere's same thing, telematic requests for all of their tractors. In theory, you could do the same thing to the John Deere tractors, and it was done, and they were able to like fully control these huge tractors. So my biggest fear is seeing those huge combine tractors running up and down opposite sides of like the highway. That scares the crud out of me that they were able to do that. So back on track again. So if your car is connected to the internet, is it hackable? Like, and how easy is that?
Yeah, I think like as long as these communicate, so like fundamentally, the way your car is set up, or the way most cars are set up, is like you have a device in your car that has a SIM card that is programmed to talk to a specific server to receive commands and receive like, and send out information, right? So I mean, theoretically, like that's always going to exist on the internet, right? So as long as you can kind of like visit that site and kind of pull apart data from that site, like I think there's a good chance that you're going to be able to like find vulnerabilities affecting that site. I think that the question is really like hardening that process as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these, you know, uh, I think if you ask anybody, I think they'd say that like they would agree that like the telematics functionality in cars was like a little bit rushed. There was like all this competition on who would do it first, and how, once they really want to get it programmed to cars, so like maybe there wasn't enough time put into that process of securing this process. But I think like over time, it's going to become like harder and harder to like actually hack. But like for now, like, and as long as that process does exist, like there is probably going to be avenues to be able to do this.
Yeah. So my biggest, like, I just bought a brand new car. I didn't use the OnStar because I didn't get the it's got a Wi-Fi capability. I did not connect that. Just protecting me. That's good sound solid, right? For me, that is good sound solid. Anything else you'd kind of do to protect yourself if you're in that situation now?
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of like one question I think like people aren't really asking too much is like what is my car connected to and what are the privacy risks of my vehicle? So for instance, like let's say you own a car for 10 years, right? And then you sell it to somebody else, like what data is left on that vehicle? So I think if consumers like start asking questions about like, hey, what devices are on my vehicle that are enabling like this remote communication or storing my data, and if you wanted to like getting them removed, right? So for instance, it's totally viable for people to go and remove like SIM cards or like not plug in like these OBD ports that like monitor your traffic for insurance companies. I think like if you're someone who's like trying to be more privacy oriented, you can kind of decouple your car from these like physical devices that are just kind of like made to monitor or sell your data.
Yeah. So what about you plugging in your Apple phone or using your Apple phone, deleting that data as well?
Yeah, I think like you could be as as far as you want, like on either side of this, you could be as far like one side or the other as you wanted. So for instance, like I don't think there's going to be like as much of a risk of like plugging your phone in and having like let's say if your contacts are physically stored on the vehicle and there's no like remote exfiltration of it and it's just on your vehicle, you can kind of say like, hey, is someone going to target me physically to steal the data off my car? And if not, I probably wouldn't worry about it too much. But like if you want to like kind of just have a threat scenario in your head, like for instance, I think
Like
one
me,
of the findings. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
like me.
Yeah, it's very valid concerns. Yeah, but I was gonna say if you feel like one of the findings we had too was like you could basically like control people's vehicle and track people's vehicle via the VIN number, right? And that kind of goes back to like let's say you're an average person who like let's you accidentally cut somebody off in traffic, and of course this is very unlikely. Like let's say they're really persistent, they really want to find it out. Like is this person gonna like take a photo of my VIN number and then like start trying to mess with me, or like what are the scenarios for you? I think attack scenario and attack likelihood are good questions.
Yeah. So one final in theory question, and then I'll let you go. And I greatly appreciate it. What if the vehicle was a self-driving car? Would you be able, in theory, to start the car and drive the car? Basically, would you have a
Yeah,
kit scenario?
so I don't think so, and I think like the physical devices, the actual physical security for vehicles is actually kind of interesting in this way. So the actual units of the car, like let's the actual like telematics unit that like connect the vehicle to the network, most of them aren't receiving like raw commands. Like let's say if you want to like honk your car, you're not gonna like click a button and the car is not going to receive like a stream of binary that like sends the actual can command. What's going to happen is that physical device is pre-programmed with a line of logic, like let's say like horn underscore honk, right? And the message that hits the car is going to say like activate horn underscore honk, right? Versus like sending the actual can commands directly to the car. Um, so I think in that capacity, like auto manufacturers really do try to limit like the amount of functionality available remotely, and like self-driving cars, like um, there's a good chance that like if like let's say Cruise deploys a self-driving car, there's a good chance they're going to have things like start, stop, and maybe like some miscellaneous stuff. But I don't think they're ever going to basically like say like, oh, allow remote control and do that. So I don't think that that's a likely scenario for this specific vulnerability.
Okay. Well, Sam, let me give you the last, like anything that you want to say, like to the audience before we give the deets.
Yeah, sure. I think like if you're like someone who's interested in this stuff and you own a vehicle, one thing you could do is just like look at it for fun, like pull open the mobile app and see if you can look at the traffic. Like, I think you may be able to find some like really cool stuff, and I think the more people we have like looking at this, the better it's going to get over time, and the more like noise we can make for the auto manufacturers going to take it more seriously. So have fun, hack your car, enjoy it.
Sweet, sweet. And then one last thing, if they want to connect with you, if they want to reach out to you and they want to learn more, what's the best way that you like to be talked to or communicated with?
Yeah, I think just Twitter works fine. My Twitter is SamWCYO. And once it's just like SAMWCYO. If you just send me a message, or there's also like samcurry.net. There's a contact form there. If you have any questions, I'm definitely like available over that. But yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna in the notes down on bottom, I'm gonna put the URL to the article I was referencing. I'm gonna put the URL to the actual podcast so that you can take a look at the podcast and learn more. And then I'll put Sam's contact information in there so that everybody could try to remotely honk his horn late at night. But Sam, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. I think it's super cool what you're doing. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being out there trying to protect us. And, I, thank you so much.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to try to do this probably twice a month. And the whole purpose of this is just to share information. I'll have guests like Sam on. Every once in a while, I'll go myself, but I'm also going to do causes as well. So all the different charities out there, all the different organizations, and then different companies that might be interesting. And if there's some company that you want to know about, or if there's a topic you want to know about, just put the comments down below, and we'll have a discussion. Or if even you want to come on and have a discussion, send me a message. We're more than happy to have a chat. Thank you for spending 20 minutes with us today, and y'all have a fantastic rest of the week.